Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you can catch the new spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so recently we got the reappearance of Carter Hall, Hawkman. And as far as since the launch of DC Rebirth, the appearances of Carter Hall have been very few and far between. And for the most part, anytime that we have seen him, mostly in the Dark Knight Metal series, they've been just glimpses that we get when somebody makes mention of him up until now. And at this point when we see him again, he's gone through a drastic change. He's like super huge now, like hundreds of feet tall. And we talked about his first appearance in this form in a previous video where we discovered the true identity of Barbatos, who he was before, who was his master, which dated back to the beginning of the multiverses. And I'll have a link pop up in the annotations for any of you who haven't seen that video yet, so be sure to have those turned on so you can catch all the tie-ins. But as we get into Carter Hall and the purpose that Barbatos has for him, this has a great deal to do with the Forge of Worlds, which is still where I believe that Nightwing, when he had his vision, saw Batman die. And at this point, Batman and Superman are at the Forge of Worlds where they see Carter Hall, but they got here by way of Daniel Hall, who opened a doorway. But Hawkman, on the other hand, found his way here through Challenger's Mountain. And we've talked about Challenger's Mountain previously on this channel because shortly after it went up, the Batman Who Laughs had built multiple labyrinths around it. And approaching this mountain recently, we've seen Nightwing, Damian, the Teen Titans, Suicide Squad, and they've been breaking through each level, getting closer and closer. But at this point, they're not sure what exactly is in there. All they really know is that Nightwing is being drawn there, there are challengers being held there, and for the most part, they're in hopes to find Batman there. But where they are at this point, it's like they're in a place of having their dreams crushed because of Nightwing's vision. And because he saw Batman die, and that vision was so real, he believed it. But the only person who's not buying it at this point is Damian. Like, regardless of what he's told, he still believes there's hope for his father. And so right here, I want to jump back to Carter Hall, because at this point, we discovered that Barbatos has had him going through a transformation. And I believe the only way to really pick this up is from reading all the different issues of Metal and the tie-ins, and noticing the pattern that Barbatos uses when he has a purpose for somebody. And two of the examples that I want to use for this are Batman and Superman. And even though both of them enter the dark multiverse in a different way, Batman through exposure to a number of metals because he had to become the doorway, Superman who was trapped because he wanted to rush in and save Batman. But even with Superman being trapped, that was a plan of Barbatos to lure him in to become the battery. And with him being a battery, he can pull down worlds from the light multiverse into the dark multiverse. But even to go further, okay, I'm gonna pull in the third here. And that's going to be Nightwing, because with the cut on his forehead that we talked about and him having his visions, Damian mentioned early on that Nightwing sent out a distress signal from Gotham. And this occurred earlier on where Challenger Mountain first appeared. And because of this, I believe that Barbatos, who set up Nightwing and is also luring Nightwing to this mountain, used him to send out this distress signal to lure in Carter Hall. And so in all three of these situations, even to the instance where Nightwing got the cut on his forehead, but in all of these situations, Barbatos has used a form of manipulation to make them run right into the trap, or the purpose that he's had planned for them. Step 2, I would have to say, are visions of these realities that crush all hope. And with these different lives that Batman has seen, that Superman has seen, and even that Nightwing has seen, I believe that Barbatos is causing them to see, or in some cases relive, these augmented memories to either crush their hopes or make them go rushing into the purpose that Barbatos has for them. And with these different lives that have been lived and these different experiences, mainly for Batman and Superman here, time has passed very differently than what we're used to for the light multiverse. And for them, what's been years or decades, they've both experienced familiar instances that have all had something off or something different from what they usually remember. But two things to keep in mind in reference to Batman and Superman, and we'll see here in a minute with Carter Hall. And the first thing is, whenever they fall into a certain trap, they always land exactly where Barbatos wants them to be, or better yet, needs them to be. And we also see this with Carter Hall, because when he reaches Challenger's Mountain and he passes through the doorway, he's not taken to the tower like Batman or Superman, but instead he's taken to the Forge of Worlds. So immediately right here it should click, because of Barbatos and his patterns and the way that he functions, Hawkman's purpose lies here. And so we talked about in the last video Barbatos Origin and how it ties into the creation of every world, and that started here at the Forge of Worlds, where it all began. You had your Monitor, your Anti-Monitor, your Forger, and the Dragon. And the Forger, who would create the worlds, the good one rising to the light multiverse, and the malformed ones would sink into the dark multiverse. And Barbatos, who was the Dragon, he was supposed to destroy all the worlds that were malformed, but instead he killed the Forger, taking the dark multiverse for his own. And so with doing this and Barbatos being the new Forger, he would still need a Dragon. And that's where Carter Hall comes into play, as the dragon of the new Forger, Barbatos. but serving Barbatos isn't something that Carter Hall would willingly do. So for this reason, much like he did with Batman, Superman, and Nightwing, Barbatos is using a combination of dreams and augmented experiences in order to deceive Carter Hall to believe that this opposite way of going is the right direction to go. Because now at the Forge of Worlds, where there's supposed to be beginnings, now there's only endings, and Barbatos wants the light multiverse destroyed instead of the dark multiverse. And before, how the Forger would wield the hammer, now the dragon does, as we see here with Hawkman holding the same hammer that the original Forger used before he was killed by Barbatos the dragon. So digging deeper into Hawkman and where he's at, since he's arrived at the Forge of Worlds, ever since his arrival he's been having these reoccurring dreams, and in these dreams he's flying like a bird as it's imposed on him, and he keeps correcting it like, I'm not a bird, I'm a warrior. But this dream keeps turning into a nightmare because every time he flies but so far, until he painfully deteriorates and falls like a rock. And it's almost like his hopes are being crushed every time that he has this reoccurring dream. But this dream keeps reoccurring over and over and over again. And so every time he seemingly wakes up, he's in this cave, and to kind of keep track of time, because there's no day and night in this place, there's no sun or no moon, it's constantly appearing to be dusk, like that final hour before darkness. But since there aren't actually days, every time he wakes up, he draws a hawk symbol within this cave in order to have his own way of keeping track of time. But one thing that he noticed, once a week, according to his calendar, these man-hawks would come in and attack him, and really they were attacking everybody because there's others in the caves too. But once a week these man-hawks would come in, and initially he would hide like the others, but after some time, and knowing that he's a warrior deep down within, he prepared himself to fight back. But as far as these other people in the caves, we're not told exactly who they are. Carter Hall just mentions them to be familiar, and he says possibly that he knows them all, and it's possible that they know him, but I believe that they're all Carter Hall. Just representations of him from different lifetimes. And I also say this because a majority of them have some sort of hawk symbol on their clothing or on their helmet. But the Carter Hall that we're following is the only one who comes out to fight the Man-Hawks. And he does this because ultimately his plan is to defeat the Man-Hawks, find a way onto the ship which they came from, and use that ship to get home. And he makes his way through that attack, climbs up these rocks that are nearby the ship and just close enough for him to get to a certain height and jump across. And when he makes it onto the ship, the fight isn't over, because as soon as he climbs inside, he's attacked by another Hawkman. And I believe this is very significant here because he tells him that he is him. But not just that, but as he fights this other Hawkman, it's serving to the purpose very similar to the Man-Hawks that attacked him earlier, and also the purpose for the other people in the caves who I believe are to be other Hawkmen as well. And I say that because much like Batman Lost, where all of Batman's memories and all the situations he encountered seem familiar but somehow were much different, Hawkman is experiencing the same thing. Because when he initially boarded the ship, he felt like he had been there before. All he knew was that, like the man in the caves, it seemed familiar, but something was wrong, something was different. But when he seen his armory and he picked up the mace, he said that he remembered who he was and that this other Hawkman is the reason why he's here. But even still, with remembering that, something still wasn't right. Because as he fights and kills this other Hawkman, he also remembers himself at the Forge of Worlds. And as he believes that he's manning the Forge and protecting all worlds, Barbatos has set him up under the illusion where he's actually doing the opposite. And so in the same way that both Batman and Superman were both trapped in sort of an inception of reality in order to execute their purpose as a doorway and as a battery, the same is being done to Hawkman to become the dragon. But instead of being a dragon to destroy the dark multiverse, he's being used as a dragon to destroy the light multiverse instead. And there's still some things we gotta wait for Metal issue number 5 to come out before we know fully. But with Carter Hall given this augmented memory of how he got there, and him taking action in this alternate reality, which ultimately affects everything he does at the Forge, I'm just hoping that this other Hawkman laying here isn't actually Batman, because that would just suck. But with all the memories coming back to him, both false and true, he is beginning to figure some things out. And so when he defeats his other Hawkman, which hopefully wasn't Batman, he takes his wings, and the same thing that happens when he's dreaming happens here when he's supposedly awake. The wings deteriorate and he's left falling to his death. And we don't actually see him hit the ground, but instead we just see him reappear as the new Hawkman. But I do have to admit, guys, that Hawkman Found has me mad nervous for Batman. And aside from the uncanny parallels from his dream, if you look closely, the Hawkman that he killed before he took his wings on the ship actually had a bat symbol on his chest. Like if you go back and look at it again, it has the bat ears and everything. And it's a combination of this, Nightwing's vision, Bruce being in a more frail state when he gets to the Forge. Like, so many things point to Hawkman killing Batman. I just really hope it ain't go down like that though. But definitely let me know you guys' thoughts down in the comments. Personally, I think because of the way that Nightwing's vision went, with him seeing Batman sink into the metal, that rather than him dying, this may be the opportunity for him to turn into something awesome. What that may be, I don't know. but I just don't want him to die. But that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed the video and learned something new, smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you can catch the new spills every week. I got links here at the end for other Dark Knights Metal videos as usual. Be sure to check those out, share them with a friend, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Alright, later.